And having this conversation with us, it's not one of those conversations you want to have like this. It's just, it is needed. We have Sylvia in the building. Welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mwikele.
You are gorgeous.
Asante.
Those colors, those colors are calling my name.
Christmas tree.
Yes, and you see what's happening behind you. And that,
Yeah, Christmas
yes,
colors. Thank
it's
you.
the festive season.
Yes, it is.
Welcome to the show.
Asante.
Kindly introduce yourself to the people. Let us know what it is that you do, even before we get to matters gender-based violence. This is your camera.
Yeah, so I'm Sylvia Mlama, political aspirant and also a champion for women's rights and a mentor to young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive conversation. I don't know why or what pushed you to have this conversation, or why you'd like to talk about it today.
Well, we've had during COVID, I think it's come out more vivid that gender-based violence in Kenya has gone to another level. And every week we experience a death. That is just the reported ones. There's those that are not reported.
Mm-hmm.
It's against women, it's against children, and it's against men too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a topic that we really need to discuss. It's a topic that we need to synthesize and start coming up with solutions on how to curb this and how to initiate programs in our communities that are going to actually help our people.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so when we talk about gender-based violence, there are different kinds and types of it.
Yes.
So it's not just one whole blanket.
No.
It has little tiny bits of it
Yes.
that we talk about. Some we do not know, some we just experience in silence. But today we're just bearing it all open.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you'd like to start with.
Okay, so the forms of gender-based violence, like you say, there are different levels.
Yeah.
You have the emotional gender-based violence.
Yes.
And that's when, there's emotional abuse and people put up with it and eventually it takes them into depression. And then you have the physical form
Let's
of violence.
just talk about emotional for a bit.
Yeah.
Like maybe instances for people to be like, so what does she mean when she say emotional? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah.
And is it different when it's mated on a certain gender, away from the other gender? Is it the same?
Emotional is actually across the board.
Yes.
Against the women, it's usually the spouse or the partner, so to speak. They will, abuse you in different ways and different forms, like put you down, like tell you things that, will make you go into depression, disapprove of your career path.
Enough.
You're not good enough.
You're not pretty enough.
And some go even as far as saying you're ugly.
You're ugly?
Yeah.
You'd never amount to
you
anything.
never amount to anything. You are an idiot, and you get that kind of abuse over time, every day, every week. Eventually, somebody goes into a cocoon and feels that actually that person has defined who they are.
Yes.
And once you are defined as who you are, it takes you away from who you're supposed to be to something totally different. And that's why you see also depression on another level causing suicide. Yeah. So the downside of it is that you'll find, particularly young people, most of them are committing suicide.
Yeah.
Because they've been abused, and if they're not talking to their parents or their peers or their guardians, they tend to get into the depression. Men too, depending on how the women around you or the wife around you telling you how you're not good enough, you're not providing for the family. She married somebody that she thought was going to make them wow, and you have failed them constantly. Then, it follows with the acts of leaving the house and not telling the husband where she's going or the partner, and demeaning the partner in front of the friends, and that, so it keeps on going. And eventually you find that if the same person is having difficulties at work and they're having difficulties at home, you find that they're also committing suicide.
Yeah.
Or the extreme violence is that they will kill the wife and kill the children because they don't see why this is happening. So the violence has got nothing to do with money or poverty. It's across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, and it affects rich families, it affects middle class families, it affects poor families. So it's a question that we really have to address as a nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is the emotional gender
That's
based.
the emotional, yeah.
And it's very, it's one of those things, sometimes we need to normalize talking about it.
Yes.
Where you go back, you find instances where you're married and you're experiencing all of this.
Yes.
And when you try to walk out, society asks you, alikuchapa?
No.
Then nasema hapana.
Yes.
Basi wewe rudi.
Exactly.
Watu wanachapa huku nje, hata you know, like it's
Hata
just
kuguza.
So it shouldn't get to that point, because this is still abuse.
It is still abuse.
It is still abuse, and it should be carried with as much weight as all the other kinds of abuse.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
And also the victims need to be aware.
Yes.
When it, you know, how far can it go being emotional abused? When should you say no?
Yeah.
When should you call it end? And a lot of it, you know, is embarrassing to talk about because people are suffering subliminally. They will go out to their friends and present themselves as a perfect family at home and everything is going well. But when they go back home, they know that that's the kind of thing they go through every day. Like, you know, being a woman, perhaps it will be very difficult for me to go out and tell my friends that, oh, my husband called me ugly last night. How? They'll say, but you guys seem happy together.
You're wishing it away. You can't verbalize it.
You can't verbalize it.
Yeah.
So it is a subliminal suffering that, you know, we need to be open about. And if you feel that you're actually going through it and that there's hints and forms of it appearing in your relationships, please voice it out. And sometimes it's even in the family. It can be a mom that is a child that is understanding the mom, or the vice versa. It can be sister to brother. It can be in polygamous families. So, and you know, Kenya being a polygamous family, I mean, we allow polygamous families in Kenya. That too plays a role. And so you have this society where we are raising disenfranchised people. We are also nurturing hatred, and we are nurturing, you know, some form of, how should I put it, some form of internal violence. So as people grow up and they get to a level where they are now able to be in the society and communicate, that's where you see some people have extreme behavior that you cannot explain or justify how it came about. But it's how you grow over time. So it can be on children, small children, they are constantly being abused. You're not good enough, you're stupid. And I told you when you go to class, you should come back with an A. Why did you come back with a B? Or don't do this, or, you know, don't do that. It's something that we really have to be open about. We can no longer hide it because we can see the effects of it, the statistics of it on TV every day. Every week we hear a death of some sort, either suicide or a death of some sort or abuse of some sort.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's just, and it's just, look at how much time we've just dwelt
on one emotional. Yes.
So let's talk about another one.
And then there's also the physical violence, which is actually statistically about 45% of women are physically abused every year in this country. 45% is a lot of people. Yes, that is almost half of the population of women in the country. And this is all happening also behind the scenes. Quiet relationships, they seem glamorous on the outside, but on the inside the women are suffering. It's the question of, you know, torture, where if it's either the husband or the partner tormenting the wife or the woman, you know, it ends up into physical. You get beaten up, you don't speak about it. The next day they come and take you on holiday and you cover up and you forget about it. Then you move on. Then he strikes again after 1 month or 2 months later. This time it's going to be harder. And you know, the moment it starts, if you don't walk out of it, eventually it will continue. And eventually something more serious is bound to happen. We've seen cases on TV. We've seen cases on the news. I don't need to mention them because we all are aware of it, where somebody has actually been hacked to death by a partner. This is the person you call your lover. you go into the house by yourselves and you lock your door and you say you are safe with each other, and then you turn on each other and kill each other. And sometimes even put the children into the mix and kill the children.
Yeah.
So it's an important topic, and I don't think it's being discussed enough on our national front.
Okay.
We have to review our bills, we have to review our laws to see where can we actually incorporate laws that will actually make it very, very serious, an offense to commit physical violence against a woman or against a man or against children. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think when you talk about physical gender-based violence, then it sort of closely ties in with the sexual beat of it, because that also happens not just as a woman who's not married and you're walking around, or a man as well, but it also happens in marriages.
It does happen in relationships, yes. Because being in relationships or as a couple, it doesn't mean that, you know, the other person should get their way. It has to be a consent. Whatever you are doing in your house, in your relationship, has to be consensual between the two of you. And so sometimes when there is friction or there is disagreement, there tends to be aggressive approach, you know, towards sex, and that ends up affecting women. So, you know, as an African society, we don't know the divide between sexual abuse and, you know, the real marriage. We don't talk about it. But there's a difference between the two, because once you've been abused and you're forced into coerced into a sexual compromising position, first of all, you are left emotionally abused. Then secondly, you've been just sexually abused. But you're in this relationship, you're in this marriage. So how do you come out and say, you know, A, B, C, D happened to me, to your friends, or even to the public, or even if you go to the police station, the police are going to ask you, is he your husband? Is he your partner? Do you live together? Yes.
Hapa hakuna kesi.
Hapa hakuna kesi, endeni nyumbani. And that continues. And that's why you hear some really, really grave abuses that happen. You cannot describe it graphically. The stories that I've listened to with the different women.
We've seen them in the news as well.
We've seen them in the news.
It goes to the extreme.
Yes. There is a woman that was abused both physically and sexually, and she was forced to get from where she lives to her sister's house. She walked bleeding up to the sister's house, and when she got to the sister's doorstep, she just fell down at the door. And when they took her to the hospital, it was too late. She passed. So these are the things we're talking about. And that is just one case. There's thousands out there that this one you didn't hear it on TV. This is something that I've had because I'm dealing with some of the people. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot.
It's not reported. It was not reported anywhere on our news.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So even the statistics that we go by are not the true statistics?
No, they're not.
Because most of these things will be covered up. The families will not want
the
embarrassment, so they'll just be like, we'll deal with this by ourselves.
Exactly. And most of the time, you know, you will be threatened to be ostracized from the family. Let's say if you are the woman married in the family and the man, one of the men or uncles abuses your daughter, you can't go out and talk about it. They abuse your daughter to cripple. And you cannot talk about it because they say, you know, if you do that, we swear to you, you'll leave this home. And we'll embarrass you in the rest of the world. And these are smaller community, everybody knows each other. How do you come out and speak? So the only thing that happens in those cases is if the woman is brave, she'll pack up and leave with her children and go and fix. And one of the cases I'm talking about is she had to move on and live with her child. Eventually the child got better, thankfully.
We thank God.
Yes. We thank God for that.
We have about 2 minutes. I can't believe we just got started. But what would be your call to action? because as much as we'll need, the government will need the conversation to be loud on the national front, what can we do even from our own, individual level? What would be a call to action?
Yeah, from our own individual level, as an individual, we need to look back to community living.
Yes.
If you see anything that gives you a hint that all is not well here,
yes,
please open your eye a little bit more and open your ear. Listen out and, come up with a way that you can be able to help the person. Find a way to help the person if you think the person is in danger. Secondly, you are in media. Try and put up more discussions about this. That how can we actually discuss this on a daily basis so that people become more aware.
Absolutely.
And as government, there needs to be civic education to our people, that these are your rights, this is abuse, and this is how life should be. Then on an upper level, the legislative level, we need to revisit our laws. How do we curb this happening in our institutions, in our homes, and even in the entire country, even in the public space it's happening. How do we streamline this and come back to normal way of living? How can we make this a very severe atrocity that somebody will not want to revisit it?
Okay.
Yeah. How can we work that forward?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, you work closely with persons who are undergoing or need help when it comes to, gender-based violence. How can people get in touch with you? Is there a number? Is there a place they can get help if they're scared of having to deal with, directly police or
they can
need
call my
someone
number
to hold their hand?
Yeah, they can call my number.
Okay.
0713 661 867. We'll talk about it. We'll find a solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tupatie your number tena sasa.
0713 661 867.
All right.
Yeah. Don't
Thank you
suffer
so
in
much.
silence.
Do not do it.
Yeah.
Asante sana kwa
Yeah.
kuja.
Thank you.
Always lovely having you on this show, and our time is up. But not until I give you the winners. Benihin decided to give out 2 books today, and the question is, what have you learned? So, hi Mikali, I'm Ida from Kayole. I'm 18 years old, and from the discussion you just had, I've learned that if you have something in you, just go for it. Don't sit on it, and it will work out. Your number ends with a 174. Congratulations. And our second winner is James from Karen. You say, I have learned about powermentation, manifestation, and motivation. Okay. A mind is made up of different faces, and it stores and storage of thoughts. Okay. Your number ends at 600. Congratulations as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for choosing us. Happy post Jamhuri Day. Chill out, enjoy, spend time with family and friends. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Adios.